Welcome to Walking Tour of New York, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in New York with every episode. Each week, we'll travel to a different destination, from the streets of Manhattan, the Brooklyn waterfront, and the energy of Times Square to the Adirondack High Peaks, Finger Lakes wine country, Niagara Falls, the Hudson Valley, and hidden gems tucked away in small towns across this extraordinary place. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore New York. There is a sound that greets you the moment you step out of your car at Buttermilk Falls State Park. A low, rushing roar, constant and cool, rising up from somewhere just beyond the tree line. It reaches you before you see anything. Before the falls, before the gorge, before any of the stunning scenery this park has to offer. That sound is Buttermilk Creek, tumbling and churning its way down through one of the most beautiful gorges in the Finger Lakes. And it is the first thing that tells you, you are somewhere special. Buttermilk Falls State Park sits right on the southern edge of Ithaca, in the heart of the Finger Lakes region of central New York. If you're coming from Syracuse, you're looking at a drive of roughly an hour. From Binghamton, it's closer to an hour and 15 minutes. From New York City, plan for about 4 hours, but this park is absolutely worth every mile. Ithaca itself is perched at the southern tip of Cayuga Lake, one of the long, narrow, glacier-carved lakes that define this region, and the whole surrounding landscape has this quality of being at once rugged and intimate, dramatic and deeply human. Gorges and waterfalls cut through the hills everywhere you look. It's a place where the Ice Age left its calling card in the most stunning possible way, and Buttermilk Falls State Park is one of its finest signatures. The park itself covers 811 acres, and it has two distinct personalities that most visitors discover in sequence. The lower park is where most people begin, and where the namesake waterfall lives. Buttermilk Falls, a 165-foot cascade that tumbles down the straighted gorge rock in two dramatic drops. The first plunge alone is nearly 90 feet. A wide curtain of white water spilling over layered shale and sandstone and landing in a deep, clear pool below. That pool is dammed to create a natural swimming area, one of the most beloved in the region, and on a warm summer afternoon, the scene is irresistible. Families spreading out on the grass nearby, kids waiting at the edges, the mist from the falls drifting cool and light across the whole area. There is a lifeguard on duty during swimming season, which typically runs from late June through mid-August, so if a swim in the shadow of a waterfall is on your list, that's your window. The name itself is a small delight. An 1866 description of the falls captured it perfectly. The water pours over the sharp rocks in a mass of thick, frothy foam that suggested to some long-ago observer the look of buttermilk churning in a wooden barrel. It is exactly right. When the creek is running high, especially in spring or after a good rain, the water takes on that opaque, churned white quality that you just don't see everywhere. It's distinctive. It's the kind of waterfall that makes you stop moving and just look. Now, most visitors are content to stand at the base of Buttermilk Falls, take their photos, maybe wade, and call it a good day. And honestly, that is a good day. But the park has a great deal more to offer if you're willing to put on your hiking shoes and start climbing. The Gorge Trail begins near the swimming area and follows Buttermilk Creek upward through the gorge, climbing roughly 600 feet in elevation and passing 9 more waterfalls along the way. The trail is paved in places and built from beautifully laid stone steps, the work of civilian Conservation Corps crews who labored here through the 1930s. Between 1933 and 1941, young men from CCC Company 1265 were trucked out to this gorge and to nearby parks like Robert H. Treman and Taughannock Falls, where they blasted rock, poured concrete, and fitted stone by hand. They built trails, bridges, retaining walls, and park buildings, sometimes working through floods and repairing damage only recently completed. The craftsmanship they left behind is still here, still beautiful, still carrying hikers up into the gorge almost a century later. When you climb those stone steps, you're walking on something genuinely historic. The gorge itself changes character as you climb. Down near the falls, it's wide and bright and full of spray. Higher up, the walls close in and the light shifts, filtered through a canopy of trees, dappling the creek below in constantly moving patterns. The rock is Devonian age shale and sandstone laid down roughly 390 to 400 million years ago when this entire region lay beneath a vast delta system. The glaciers that swept through here during the last ice age did the heavy sculpting work, carving the gorge, shaping the cliffs, depositing the creek in its current path. The result is a place that feels both ancient and alive, like the landscape is still in the middle of becoming itself. One of the real secrets of the Gorge Trail is the potholes. Scattered throughout the creek bed and the lower gorge walls, you'll find circular depressions worn into the rock. Some the size of dinner plates, others large enough to sit inside. They look almost artificial, too perfectly round to seem natural, and they range from a delicate pale gray to a deep luminous green when filled with pooled water. These formed as plunge pools at the bases of ancient waterfalls, then deepened over thousands of years as pebble-laden whirlpools drilled slowly into the stone. Each one is a record of water's patient, extraordinary power. They're easy to walk past without noticing, but once you start looking, you'll see them everywhere. The Gorge Trail runs about 1.5 miles one way to its upper end, just past a striking formation called Pinnacle Rock, a slender column of stone that rises up from the gorge floor like something placed there on purpose. The trail is complemented by the Rim Trail, which runs along the opposite side of the creek and offers different perspectives on the gorge below. It's possible to do a loop, hiking one side up and the other back down, which most people find more satisfying than turning around midway. The Gorge Trail is only open from early May through early November, so plan your visit accordingly if the falls are your main goal. After a hard winter with flooding, the opening can shift, so it's worth checking the park's website before you go. Beyond the Gorge and Rim trails, the Bear Trail extends further into the park toward the upper section, connecting eventually to Lake Treman, a small, placid reservoir created by a 36-foot stone dam that is itself one of the park's most arresting sights. The CCC built that dam too, fitting the stones together with the same meticulous care they brought to everything else in this park. The trail around the lake is about 1.5 miles, and the contrast with the gorge below is striking. Down in the gorge, the world is vertical, dynamic, loud, with moving water. Up at Lake Treman, everything is horizontal and still. The wooded shores reflect in the water, birdsong replaces the roar of the falls, and the pace of the whole experience shifts. It's a beautiful pairing, and if you have the time and the energy, doing both in a single visit is deeply satisfying. At the far end of the lake, a spur connects to the Finger Lakes Trail, for anyone who wants to stretch the day into something longer. Larch Meadows, tucked into the lower section of the park, is another spot worth seeking out. It's a wetland area, shady and moist and alive with a different kind of biodiversity than the gorge. And a nature trail winds through it in a way that feels almost meditative after the exertion of the gorge climb. It's a good place to slow down, to listen for frogs and red-winged blackbirds, to let the park show you a softer version of itself. A word about the history that sits beneath all of this, because it goes back much further than the CCC or even European settlement. Long before any of these trails were built, the area around present-day Ithaca was home to the Dutello and Saponi people, who had migrated northward after being displaced from their homeland in the Virginia and North Carolina region. They settled here with the Cayuga, one of the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the people the Iroquois Confederacy is more commonly known as, and established a village near what is now Buttermilk Falls, with log cabins, farm fields, and orchards. That village was burned to the ground by Continental Army soldiers during the Revolutionary War, part of the Sullivan-Clinton campaign of 1779, which devastated indigenous communities across central and western New York. The landscape you're walking through now has that history underneath it, and it's worth holding on to as you go. In the early 20th century, the land that would become this park came to the state through the remarkable generosity of Robert and Laura Treman, a prominent Ithaca family. Robert Treman was a banker, president of Tompkins County National Bank, a Cornell trustee, a Federal Reserve board member, but also a conservationist in the truest sense. He and Laura donated the original 164 acres of the park to New York State in 1924, opening it to the public the same summer. Robert Treman went on to serve as supervisor of the Finger Lakes Commission of the State Park System from 1924 until his death in 1937. He had already donated the land that became Robert H. Treman State Park several years earlier. The Treman legacy in this region is immense, and you feel it everywhere. In the parks that bear the family name, in the trails built with the care of people who understood that beauty belongs to everyone. The park has a campground in the lower section, with tent and trailer sites available from mid-May through mid-October. There are also 7 cabins for rent, which offer a bit more comfort and privacy for those who want to linger. Reservations fill quickly for summer weekends, especially in July and August. So if camping here is the plan, book well in advance through the New York State Parks reservation system. A few practical notes before you go. The Gorge Trail is challenging enough that people who struggle with steep stairs or uneven surfaces might want to stick to the lower park area, which is accessible and still genuinely beautiful. Bring water shoes or sturdy sandals if you're planning to wade. The rocks are slippery, and good footwear makes a significant difference. And if the falls seem a little underwhelming when you arrive, check the recent weather. Buttermilk Creek responds dramatically to rainfall, and visiting 1 to 2 days after a significant rain will show you the falls at their most powerful. The park is open year-round, though the Gorge Trail closes in winter, and even in the colder months, the lower falls and surrounding area have a stark, quiet beauty worth experiencing. One last thing, parking in the lower lot fills up fast on summer weekends. Arriving early, before 9 in the morning, will save you significant frustration and give you the gorge largely to yourself, which is worth getting up for. For food and drink after a day on the trails, Ithaca has an excellent dining scene with something for almost every taste. Ithaca Beer Company is a natural starting point, a well-regarded local brewery with a full restaurant that draws both visitors and locals. South Hill Cider, nearby, is a great option if you're in the mood for something from the apple country that defines so much of this region. Downtown Ithaca's Ithaca Commons is the heart of the city's dining scene, with spots like Revelry Yards, which brews its own craft beers on-site and serves them alongside wood-fired pizza in a lively space with an outdoor beer garden. The Rook and Food Lab Kitchen and Bar both offer more creative menus in comfortable, casual settings. And for those wanting a longer meal and a more elevated experience, Gola Osteria draws devoted regulars from across the region for its Italian-inspired kitchen. For lodging, La Tourelle Inn and Spa sits right on Ithaca's South Hill, with a trail that connects directly to the Buttermilk Falls trail system. It's the most immersive option if staying close to the park is a priority, and the August Moon Spa on-site is a pleasant way to end a day of hiking. Firelight Camps offers a glamping experience that brings you into the woods without sacrificing comfort. Downtown Ithaca has a good range of hotels and inns for those who prefer to be in the heart of things, including the Argos Inn, which has a celebrated cocktail lounge, and the William Henry Miller Inn, a beloved bed and breakfast close to the Commons. And of course, if you'd rather sleep under the stars, the park's own campground and cabins put you right in the middle of it all. Buttermilk Falls State Park is one of those places that reveals itself in layers. The falls that greet you at the entrance, the gorge that opens up behind them, the quiet meadows and still lake above, and underneath all of it, a deep history of people who cared enough about this landscape to preserve it, build into it with craft and care, and give it away so that everyone could come here and feel what you're feeling right now. That rushing sound in the trees, that cool mist on your face, that sense that the world is very old and occasionally extraordinarily beautiful. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination. Leave us a positive review to help others find the show. And share this episode with someone who loves exploring New York. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond New York, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and happy trails.